Hey you, and welcome. In this video, we will learn about arrays in JavaScript. So let's dive right into it. I'm going to open up my Quokka in VS Code with a new JavaScript file, close the terminal, and we're ready to go. I'll start by instantiating an array. In order to do so, I'll start with a const, name it arr, equals to square brackets and semicolon. That's how you instantiate an empty array. Square brackets mean array. If I was to replace that with braces, that's object. So array versus object there. And inside this array, I can provide a list of items, and those items can be any data type that you want. And I mean anything. So I could provide undefined if I'd like, a null, a string value, a number, a boolean. I could even provide an object. I could provide another array inside array. I could provide a date object or any other class that we create. So array can be of any kind. And of course, in JavaScript, you could mix them up. Ideally, you wouldn't really do that. You would want to keep them as one type, but you are allowed to mix those up. So I'm going to take all this away. And inside the array, I'm going to provide names of animals so we can see how arrays work in JavaScript. So let's start working with that. I'll say pig. Ooh. Not good. Okay, let's take that away. Chicken and horse. Great, and let's rename this so we know this is a list of animals. Great, let's start by console logging our animals array, see what it looks like. There we go. Square brackets on each side, string values, comma separated. That's how it would look in the console. I can fetch another property of the array, which is the length property, animals.length. Which will tell us how many items are there in the array at the moment, which are 3. Even though the item length is 3, the animal index for each animal is -1. So index for the array always starts with 0. That can cause a little bit of confusion. So let me show you what I mean by that. I'll do a console log animals, and using square brackets after animals, I can target each item specifically if I know the number of the item. So ideally, if you provide the first number 1, you would expect pig to show up. However, chicken shows up. The reason why is because pig is at index 0, then 1 is chicken, and horse is 2. So if I do that right now, 0 is pig, 1 is chicken, and 2 is horse. So usually when you want to get the last item in the array, you can just replace the number 2 with animals.length -1. So it's always -1 to get the last item in the array. Perfect. I can also add another item. So let me just copy paste this. And right in the middle, I will just add another item into animals array using animals.length. And this time I will not do -1 because I do want to target the next index that is available to me. In this case, number 4. And if I do equals to fish. There we go. Last item now is fish. So that's how we can make modifications to our array. Perfect. Not only that, arrays are used so commonly in JavaScript that we also have a lot of methods that go with the array. So let me show you what I mean by that. I'll take away some of this code. Let's start by joining our animals array. So there's a join function, join method. And if I call that join method, you have to provide a string as an argument. So I'll start in string, and notice that as soon as I provide an empty string, it joins all my animals, pig, chicken, horse, without any spaces, without any commas, just joins them together. So now I can even provide some kind of delimiter to say, separate them by comma, and you can see commas appear. If I put comma space, make it a little bit better, or I can say space, pipe, space. You get the idea. It's just going to convert array into a string, so and usually used for rendering it out in some place or maybe putting it in the database. So that's join method. Next, let's take a look at how we can add items to the end of the array. We did do that just now, where we can just say animals.length and provide another animal, fish, and then console log animals.length -1, get me the last item. So you can see how this works just fine. That's fine. However, there is a method to make it easier instead of you having to provide animals.length like this. So I can replace this to say animals.push and push an item here. And there we go. It says fish. And with this method, what was good is that I can provide a comma separated list of items that I want to add. So in this case, I can just add a giraffe in there as well. And now the last item becomes giraffe because giraffe was after fish. If I was to change the arguments and replace them with each other, there we go. Fish is the last item in this case. So that's how we would use push method of the array. Next, let's take a look at how we can add items to the beginning of the array, not like the push. Push always adds it to the end, but how can we add items to the beginning? So I'll console log animals and see the state of that. And you can see pig, chicken, horse, giraffe, fish. Now I want to add something at the beginning. Let's console log it again. And right in the middle of it, I will start writing animals.unshift. That's another method. And in the unshift, I can start providing some animal names. So in this case, let's say frog. And you can see how it's adding that to the beginning. I can add another one here, running out of animals. Let's say cat. Okay, perfect. So we can add that to the beginning, and same thing applies just like push, where we can add them in a order. So that's the beginning of array versus the end of the array, push versus unshift. Great, now let's take a look at how we can take items away from an array in an order. So in this case, first let's start with beginning of the array and take some items away. I'll just console log again so we can see it live, how it changes. And right in the middle of those two console logs, I'll say animals.shift. If I call it once, you can see how frog is gone and now cat shows up. If I do shift twice, then it shifts more, and I keep shifting, and you can see how items at the beginning of the array keep going away. Similarly to shift, we have another method called pop, and that takes away item from the end. Is too long right now, so we can't really see. Let me just go ahead and pop a few items, and we can see chicken is the last one. I'll pop another one. There we go, chicken is gone and pig is the last one. So that's how pop versus shift, unshift versus push, that's how those methods work. I'll take these items away. Next, let's take a look at how we can loop through some of these array items. Looping in any programming language is the way to go when you want to go through items and filter through them, find something. So in this case, we're going to work with the animals.forEach method. There are other methods. There is a map method. We'll take a look at that in the later videos. And also there are other methods to find through or filter through methods that we're going to look at in the later videos. But for now, for each works just fine. The argument for this for each function is a predicate, which is just an anonymous function. So I could just use a arrow function, or I could just say function like so. Either one would work, and this function will be passed an item every time it loops through. So I can accept item as a parameter. I can take away function, that's perfectly fine, just have to replace it with an arrow function. So either or approach is okay. And when I loop through them, if I was to console log item like that, you can see how it's comma separated. The reason why is because Quokka is going to take that loop and just tell you every loop that it goes through is going to provide one item at a time. So this can be very useful when I want to maybe go through a list of array items and filter out something, or maybe create a new array out of it. So I'll just say new array, and this is an empty array. I'm going to take new array and say push the item you encounter in this loop into the new array, and then console log new array right here, and we have successfully copied our array exactly using a loop. I can even put a condition in there, which we're going to take a look at in the later videos. But you can say item equals frog like so, and then return. That means don't do anything with that. Skip over frog. That means all the items would be here except for frog. So it's very useful for those purposes. Last but not least, I want to show you guys how to find an item in an array. So I'll just go ahead and try that out. Animals.find, and this again takes a predicate. That means it's a function, an anonymous function, and I'm going to use arrow function here, and we have to return a true or false. True means you found it, false means you didn't find it. So in this case, I'll just do curly braces and return a true. And if I do that, animals.find, there we go, and I have to assign it to a value. So let's say I assign it to a const named val, console log val, and it just tells me, yes, you found frog, which is the first item, because we're returning true as soon as it executes. We could even put a logic in there, because in the predicate we will receive an item. So we can say, when you encounter item which is equals to pig, return pig, or return chicken. So that's another way. If you don't know the index of the item, you can use find to find an item inside an array. All right, that's about it for all the array methods and the array functionality. I'll see you all in the next video.